Alrighty, folks, welcome back to Mossy Roots Farm. Please excuse the extremely fast and odd footage for today. I'm doing a voiceover if you couldn't tell. So I wanted to maybe do a voiceover video, or at least be able to add in some voiceover if I saw fit. So for example, if I was running the tractor or something and you really couldn't hear me, I wanted to maybe add some voiceover so it was a little bit easier to communicate with you guys. So this was a test video I did. The reason I'm doing it as a voiceover is because this pump that I'm setting up here right now to do water is extremely loud and obnoxious. So my thought was, if I could do a voiceover, then I could run the pump, show you guys what I'm doing today, and then explain things in editing, of course. So today that's what we're doing. This is something that I have to do when the girls need water in their barrel. I have to set the pump up, have to run my little garden hose, and then I put my garden hose end into the barrel. Right now I'm just shutting off the water because I was trying to drain the last little bit out before I put more in. And I will have to put more in from this barrel because I didn't have enough to finish the job. So that's what I'm doing currently. That valve is a gate valve, which is why I have to turn it literally forever. The whole point of a gate valve is that you can't get frozen on the backside and break your valve. That's why I have it installed in something like this, because it's more resistant to freezing, obviously not freeze proof. And oh, hey, that's ice. That's why I wasn't getting water. So now you see, I went to something else to the barn. Well, the reason I'm in the barn is because I had to run the heater that I leave in the tank because I didn't think it was going to get that cold to de-thaw everything. And it didn't end up de-thawing anything like I wanted it to do. So I switched over to getting the girls a round bale. I take these round bales and I will flip them up on end and I will show you guys what I'm doing there. And I unroll the bale on end to feed the girls hay, forkful at a time basically. But I always clean up at the end of every round bale. There's always dust. There's always little bits of flowers or pollen or anything else that's left in the round bale that's not the basic stem, stalk, or main leaf matter. And that is why I'm sweeping it all up, because if I just continuously left it pile up, it would be a giant disaster and I would never be able to get to anything. Hey, thank you, genius, for moving the camera so we could see what you're doing. Smart guy he is. So normally what I do with this stuff is if it looks like there's enough leaf matter or if it will stay on a pitchfork, I will actually grab it and I will toss it into the girls and feed them that. If it's very, very dusty, dirty kind of a thing, then I will just throw it in their pen. And I'll do that here later on, I'm sure. But right now I'm moving this round bale and I'm going to show you guys my setup for flipping a round bale. It's a very simple, easy setup. It does take a few minutes to actually do, and yes, I'm sure I could flip these round bales with a buddy or even by myself if I was a real farmer. However, the issue I run into is that I like to work harder sometimes, or smarter, I shall say, instead of harder. That's what I meant. So it's just easier to set up what I'm going to set up here and then move everything with this pallet fork and do that. So, and now I'm grabbing part of the equipment. So that is a hay hook with a piece of rope on it. That hay hook is going to go into the hay, into the round bale. And the reason I needed to use the rope is the come along that I also had in my hand was not long enough to reach. So I had to actually get it like an extension basically to make it reach what I needed to reach. And I should grab a rope that's attached to my barn post that's on the right hand side of the screen. And as soon as I get that and get it all hooked up, we should be good to go. Minus the fact that I have the dolly or the pallet jack, in there, and I need to throw that skid down that I keep walking around. And that's what I'm doing with the ropes right now and the skid and such, is trying to get them in place. You know, this does take a little bit of a time, and I'm going to sit here and think about the fact that my skid that I'm standing on is in the way, because I am really intelligent. and have to move everything 15 times. Oh, look, and I'm pretending that I'm working hard. Imagine that. But anyways, yeah, so this method has been helping me quite a bit on the farm recently. I've been able to feed some hay that otherwise I would have had a lot of trouble with, because there's no easy way to get hay into the barn for these girls. The problem I face is in the wintertime I get a lot of mud, a lot of muck, and that's a number one problem for me, because I don't want to get the tractor stuck. I don't want to rut up the field. I don't want to have to go out there and unbury equipment all the time just so that I could move this round bale around with a piece of machinery. And yes, it would be more convenient if I had a way to get from the barn where the hay's stored to the cows. But this barn was built in 1970. It was added on to, it's been drove into, it's been pushing down the hill from all the dirt uphill of it. So there's lots of issues with this barn. And for right now, instead of me going out there and putting a lot of effort into this barn, I'm just going to deal with it until I get the funds and or the necessity for a new barn. So at some point, oh look, it went over. I can just push on it like that. Yes, again, I could tip this myself, and I have tipped it with a friend, but it's just so much easier to hook the come-along up because half of the stuff I just leave set up anymore. Yeah, the rope that I just disconnected from the bale itself could be formatted in a different manner. You know, one long section, two skinny pieces, whatever the case may be, two loops, honestly. But for now, it works the way that it is. And I'm putting those away currently, which is a surprise because I never put anything away after I'm done dealing with it. So now what I do is I, again, jack the round bale back up with the pallet jack. And then I take it over closer to the girl so I'm not stringing hay everywhere. And I need to get away from that cement mixer because I use that to make the pig food, the cow food, the chicken food, all the foods. And if it gets clustered, then I don't have easy access to deal with that. So right now I'm just making sure that everything looks good, it's about where I want it, or move it, or whatever the case may be. And eventually I will decide that I'm happy with it, and I will leave it where it is. And from there, I come over and I start taking the twine wrapper off. Well, I shouldn't say the twine wrapper, this is net wrap, so I start taking the net wrap off. And because these bales have been in the barn, they have very minimal rot. I mean, super duper minimal rot. So it's super easy for me to just peel it off like this and walk around in a circle and get like 99.9% of it off. I have found a few strings here and there from just having leftovers, basically. Like a little piece didn't get tied in perfectly, or it got snagged and cut, or whatever the case is. So I did something along those lines here, and then I just wrapped it all up and threw it away. This bale, I think, has a little more rot on it. Some of these bales must have been sitting out for a couple years before I put them in the barn. See, there's a little string like I was talking about there that gets caught and then doesn't unwind itself. But I think this bale has a little bit more rot on it because it was outside the barn, and then I brought it inside the barn. And some of the ones further in were so dusty and dry that any time you forked into it like I'm doing here, you got bathed in a cloud of dust, pollen, or whatever it is that the round bale actually had in it. So yes, generally I attempt to uncurl it like a roll of toilet paper. You know, I act like these are rolls of toilet paper, so I try and uncoil it like you would uncoil a roll of toilet paper. However, it gets hard because you get 4 or 5 layers to start, and then you end up with like half a layer or 1 layer, and then you just take forever to get the same amount of hay. So what I do is like I did at the beginning there, I just fork from the top down, get, I don't know, 2 to 6 inches of hay, peel it open, and then generally it just falls apart like that, and we're all good to go. And there I am again, pretending that this is hard work.